Quick sip. Sorry about that. All right, we're back. Oh, there he is, my seltzer buddy. We're here with Justin Louden, owner and one-man show that is Closed Casket Activities. If you listen to Hardcore in 2020, he's probably released some of your favorite records in the past few years. He's a good friend, and I've had the pleasure of working with him on several records now, both as a producer and as an artist. And I could say it's one of the most enjoyable experiences I've ever had making records. So thank you for coming on here, Justin.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
No problem. We chat frequently, and I know we've been talking a lot lately about what's going on, you know, with our circles in the hardcore community and in the music industry. So I think what I'd like to start with is, first off, I'm like amazed at how, you know, active you've been, and you've been with the label as using it as a platform to kind of further, you know, charitable work and, you know, pushing the right message out to support the Black Lives Matter movement. If you wouldn't mind, like, maybe catch people up on what's going on with Closed Casket right now and what you guys are doing currently.
Yeah. So just the other week we released the End record that Will and I worked on together. That was a really weird week to put an album out, considering it was pretty much right when protesting really hit in full steam across the US. We kind of killed the record that week in a way. We had a single come out, which we didn't really promote. We didn't acknowledge it the day it went up. We had a music video, which we kind of acknowledged the next day, just because it was there and the album came out on Friday. But with that, we also just let everyone know this album comes out and we're not going to clog feeds. We're not going to reshare stories. We're not going to make it a thing like bands normally do, where you just promote and promote as much as you can. We really just said, here it is. Check it out if you want. There's something much bigger going on in the world that everyone needs to take into account. And along with that, I've kind of delayed several records. There's 2 represses that haven't been announced yet. And there's like 3 LPs where I canceled their street dates. So we can wait until we get to a time where it feels more appropriate to actually promote music.
Yeah, I think
we just all I could really do was share people's stories of charity work, like bands doing nonprofit shirts and, you know, raffles and things like that, and just make protests as in front of people as possible.
Yeah, I really do appreciate the way you approached handling trying to sell music and trying to run a record label in the current times, because there was a definitive pause in what I would consider like day-to-day label work. And you definitely shifted gears into like, okay, we're gonna go a different way with this. We're not going to be releasing records. We're not going to be over advertising and putting fucking social media ads all over everyone's feeds while more important stuff is going on. You've like, I mean, you're selling yourself a little short, because honestly, you've been like not donating money, you know, supplying bands with all this stuff, like working out deals so bands can get merch printed. You're like doing, you know, you took all the end money on release weekend that we would have pocketed from a merch store, and you put it straight to a charity and shipped all that shit on your own and did all that mail order and fulfillment stuff, you know, to not make a dime off of it. So it's a breath of fresh air in the hardcore metal label community when I see, you know, labels worry about themselves second, you know, and get involved with what's going on first, and like actually pausing releases right now. You know, I'm sure that hurts the wallet and takes a lot of fucking, you know, that's a lot of hard conversations you have to have with other artists too. But I really do appreciate you doing it, you know, and this is all on top of like already having to deal with the COVID pandemic and trying to run a label through that, where you can't even put a record in a store and stuff. So how are you able to navigate running a label before this, even with like, you know, having no, having no bands on tour and having no retail. Like it's got to be it's got to be its own challenge,
Well, this label's the like notorious label for bands that don't tour. I mean, I have like 3 full-time touring bands at the moment, I think. And I mean, Incendiary really like set the bar for being like, we're going to do it on our terms and we're going to do weekends. And like, I mean, it's the only band I've ever heard of that will fly overseas to play 1 show and then fly home.
Yeah. I love the go to Europe, play 2 shows leave on a Friday, be at work on Monday thing.
Yeah. It's crazy. Yeah. Honestly, the biggest hurdle for me was, most people don't realize this. All the like splatter and merge and crazy vinyl colors that you can get, all of that's actually pressed in the Czech Republic. So when COVID stuff hit, the cost to import vinyl skyrocketed. And my pressing plant reached out and was like, the cost to import went up like 6 times, which made things completely like unaffordable, like couldn't do it. So things had to actually ship by boat, which I've never done a boat shipment in my life. And I just had about 2,000 records show up here that took 9 weeks to deliver, where it's normally like 2 weeks.
Right.
Even like the end record, like those records, I mean, they made it in time, but they delivered like the week of, and it was literally like a scramble to just get them out as quick as possible so everyone could get them.
Right. The Kidney Strain record got delayed too, right?
Yeah, that one, that showed up about the week after it was supposed to start shipping, but that was like the first sign of it. I had dealt with a few bands that were supposed to tour Europe who, we saw this like start where it was like, no one can go over there. Like, you're not going to be allowed in the country. Bands aren't going to be able to tour properly. Everything's being canceled. No idea when you can go back. And then it hit with the pressing plants and importing and everything. And it's just like, it's honestly been the biggest hurdle to kind of get around it. I've started, and luckily, like all the bands I work with have been completely understanding of it, not setting street dates until everything ships, because I mean, it's going to take like at least a month, if not, up to 2. Like I just said, I just had something take 9 weeks to deliver.
Sure. I mean, so, it's cool that you, the way you run this, to be honest with fans, I think is important. Getting bands to understand, like, we do have to delay this because they don't want to lie to kids or have to move a ship date or have to say a record comes out here and then, have them wait 2 months for vinyl. I mean, when your favorite band puts a record out and you order that vinyl and then it comes out and you don't get that record and you don't get it the next month and the next month, like it definitely, nobody wants to wait for music. The people want to support the fan. The fans want to support the artist, but they also like want to hear this fucking record when it comes out,
Oh, so, sure. And honestly, streaming makes that a little bit easier for people to hear it immediately. But yeah, I mean, now the hurdle is the post office. Like, I mean, my postal workers that I deal with, they talk to me all the time about how like stuff is just taking forever to even just deliver. And it's going through, if you follow tracking, if you order anything, it's like all over the country now to make it a state away. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you've being kind of a one-man show, you're so dug in with mail order, with shipping, with the post office, with different vinyl plants. You're able to kind of pivot and like kind of adapt to changing times. And it's let you not only get through the COVID stuff and like not really slow down or miss releases, but it's also let you pause things, which we've just talked about, that you've done, to take a minute and let this Black Lives Matter, voice have a front stage. And I think, it's definitely something we've talked about a lot, where we've starting to notice that other people in the music industry, just act like it's business as usual. And, I don't know about you, but like the way I feel, we're taking a moment to stop and work through this. And I'm trying to have these conversations with people, to be like, hey, you can't really just sit around anymore. Like complacency and silence and putting up a black square, but then the next day just blasting out ads for, you know, records is not really like, that's not really doing enough anymore, you know, and like I'm trying, you know, I think people are starting to notice, and people are, I would like to see people be held accountable for this a little more. But I mean, you can talk about this a little more too, because we've been discussing this at great lengths lately, because it's just something that's kind of fucking annoying us, you know?
Yeah. I mean, it's so bizarre to see, because like, I mean, I'll look at my label, and like people of color have been a part of so many bands that I work with. I mean, just looking at that and the message that's there, like even down to bands like God's Hate. Like God's Hate has so many songs about like what's currently happening, you know? And when you look at it and you think of like, and maybe I'm viewing it differently because this label comes from hardcore, but when you look at it and you see what you built your label and your subculture around, and it's these topics that are happening like right this second, like how can you just move forward on new music, new titles, like ignore all this nonprofit stuff, like pre-order this new record? Like it's just something I'm not comfortable with. And it's something I wish I saw more labels kind of stop doing, especially right now, because these first couple weeks, I mean, it's such like an important time period in actual change in our country, which is finally happening after, you know, like I actually talked to Monty Connor about this the other day. We were talking about New York, and he was talking to me about the pandemic. And I said to him, like, have you ever seen like anything even remotely similar to this? And he started saying, like, I look out my window and I'm seeing riots. Like I'm seeing all this, like it is insane.
Sure.
Like, no one, our parents have never seen anything like that.
I mean, we had him on yesterday, and, you know, Monty's definitely at least one of the guys who is doing stuff in the background and actually has some plans to do some nonprofit things that we're going to hear about very shortly from Nuclear Blast and stuff. But I've had this conversation with him, and when this all happened, I honestly didn't see a lot from them. And, you know, yeah, he knows I've reached out to him and I was like, hey, we should, you know, you have a platform. A lot of people care about, you know, a statement from a label that's as credible and has been around for so long. Like we should use this thing, you know? And he's, you know, it's like, yeah, we are, you know, you're right. We're doing this, we're doing that. So it was nice to hear, because he's another, you know, label head that I work with closely, and we do a lot together. He releases my band shit. It was just nice, refreshing to hear that, like, good, my fucking team, you know, isn't sitting around. But then I'm watching it happen with other labels. And the other thing, man, and this is like long term, like bands are gonna, you know, they're gonna remember this stuff. They're gonna know who just sat by and who doesn't give a shit about the you know, the black artists and that they have on their roster, and who won't get involved because they're worried about politics, or, you know, a big metal label is worried about pissing off all their white power fans and their Euro metal, you know, guys who don't understand this. And it's frustrating, you know. And you know, the one thing I think we're going to see long term is these older labels, or I wouldn't say older, but, you know, these more established metal labels and people who are silent right now are going to have to deal with this fallout when in 5-10 years, the next hot artist that comes up in this world doesn't want to align themselves with these people, you know. And there's something to be said about being on the wrong side of history. People don't fucking forget that stuff, you know?
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. And especially in metal, I mean, like, I tried to dig through some stats on like my streaming numbers, and in my catalog, like it's something like 94% men, like 3% women, and then 2% unspecified. And then, I mean, I have to imagine out of that 95%, it has to be like majority white. You know, I'd be shocked if like 90% of that wasn't white men, you know?
Sure.
So if that's my audience, why would I not give this, like, why would I not use my platform to put this in front of them?
Yeah.
Like, who needs to know about a new record right now?
Yeah.
No.
It's literally the audience that needs to mobilize and support the black artists in the black community. And these labels have these platforms to do that. and to maybe wake a few people up who just are there because they like the bands and they don't really care about this stuff and they never really paid attention.
And I don't even know if I told you this when we announced that all the proceeds from the End merchandise sold on record release weekend was going to be donated to the ACLU. There were a few troll pages that hit my socials saying like, I guess I'll wait till Monday for the money to go someplace that matters, or, you know.
Of course. I mean, it's met. I mean, in hardcore, I feel like, you know, the backgrounds that we come from, you know, racism is not accepted in that community generally. But when we get into the metal world, you know, I don't know where these people are or who specifically they are, but it's prevalent. It's still a thing, you know, and, you know, you've got your idols and your Phil Anselmos out there, white power and like throwing arms up on stage. And, you know, that message has been there, whether it's subtle layers and it's a joke or it's this or that, but it's like, that's been a part of, you know, the uglier side of that world for a long time. And metal bands who get socially active are always met with criticism, no matter what. I mean, I've dealt with it for fucking years. Everybody I know who tries to do something is dealt with it, but it doesn't matter anymore because now it's like, I don't want those fans around anyway. And I think people like you are doing the right thing and taking the pause and doing the right nonprofit work and supporting the artists that are doing the same thing. And I think people in this world are going to remember this stuff. So I thank you a lot for everything you're doing for this whole community. And I always appreciate your insight and talking to you. You're fucking one of the smartest guys I know. And I think Closed Casket's got the brightest of futures ahead in this world. So
thanks, Will.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, there is one record we're still doing. That comes out tonight at midnight, and 100% of the proceeds are being donated to the Bail Project.
Awesome.
New band that we announced. I'm pretty excited about it.
I won't spill it, but yeah, it's good.
It's a band called Regional Justice Center from Seattle. Oh, West Coast. They're kind of all over, but it's really it's a record that, well, it's a song. It's a 7-inch single that was recorded like 4 months ago, and it's completely, you know, it's completely dialed into what's happening right now, and it's something that people like actually need to think about, and I think it's a message that needs to be said right now. So it's the one record. Maybe next month we'll have some new stuff out. I'm not really sure. Kind of depends on how things go.
Cool, man. Well, as always, I look forward to what you're going to do next. So thank you for taking a second. Let's show your giveaway. Yeah. I should mention that there are several bands on here who graciously gave giveaways, but also hit you up for shit. So just kind of behind, I don't need to name him, but Justin's behind several of these giveaways. So the man dug deep into his personal stash for a lot of rare stuff, and I appreciate that. But this is like a actual Closed Casket bundle, which is really cool. You get 15 records, Acacia, Criminal Instinct, Downpresser, Eyes of the Lord, Fireburn, Harm's Way, Incendiary, another Incendiary record, Judiciary, 2 Pet Brick records, a Portrayal Guilt record, a Raw Hex record, Vomicara, Vane. It's a pretty diverse package of bands, a very good representation of all the cool shit you do with your label. Thank you for helping put together the End vinyl package too. I know I have Brendan on later, so we'll probably talk about that a little, but, and thank you for supporting all the bands that are involved in this and all your bands with everything that everyone's doing to further this Black Lives Matter movement. I really appreciate you, man. Always a pleasure talking to you.
Of course.
I'll probably call you tonight. Have a good one, man. Justin Louden, an American hero. Always a pleasure talking to him. Soundrink.live, a $10 charitable donation enters you into our giveaway raffle. We have over 100 items, and leave a note with your donation of what you want. If we pick you, you win that prize. The top 3 donations get to cherry pick the prizes. You get whatever the fuck you want. So if you really want something, bid hard. And if you're one of the high bidders, you just get to pick whatever you want. Thank you. And I'll be back in a second with Jay Hurley.